Here he comes.
Now we're waiting on
Now we're waiting on Bob. Everybody say no tax rate. No, no tax increase. It's a group. It's a group. Three people. Ron Ball has an excused absence, I believe. So, we can just go there after that. And Bob Ward.
You mean he's absent with us?
Yeah. I was about to excuse. Problem is I can't get a group photo to fit.
So you got plans?
What are you listening to? What are you listening to? Okay. I thought you listened to the babies.
My wife is out. If you want to.
You're not teleconferencing, are you? Okay. Twice a month, huh?
Yeah, you're right.
Twice a month. What was that? I know colas. I see a cola. Nice photo for the front page. Don't cover your face. Don't do that. That's great. Very happy.
20 years. Or if they were to start in 09, county manager, and I had all
All right, here he is.
All right, good evening, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started this evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to this May 21st, 2025 City Council work session. We would ask that you please silence all electronic devices, and thanks everyone for accommodating the schedule change. We greatly appreciate it. Just as a reminder, Council Member Ronnie Wall is absent and excused from tonight's meeting. We will roll right into the agenda. Item A is fiscal year 2025-2026 annual budget proposal presentation. At this time, we'll turn it over to Craig Honeycutt and Paige Reese to go over our budget presentation. Good evening.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Tonight is a presentation of our annual manager's recommended budget. We do want to thank the work that our finance department has done to get us to this point, as well as our department heads. We've really been meeting on this really since about January, really talking about capital projects and next steps, along with how we were working out the bond projects as well. So with that being said, we have a theme every year that we tried to do. Basically, it was this year was looking at a basic budget plus our new debt service for our bonds. As council's aware, we have sold our bonds. It is about an additional $1.5 million with respect to new debt, but we have included that within our operating budget in the general fund. And at this point, we are not recommending a tax increase for this year. Next year, with additional bonds being sold for the Paramount and for the MAC, there definitely will be a recommended tax increase. So I'll give you a year to kind of get ready for that. So, but this year, we're working with staff, working with finance. We were able to work so we could absorb that new debt cost within this year's budget. Again, we're looking at no tax increase, but growth is being projected at about 3% for our tax valuations. One of the things that we're looking at, and we have looked at for a while, is our solid waste fees. Our solid waste fees comparatively are low. We're also looking at increases from the county with respect to tipping fees at the landfill. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to go ahead and get our user fees on sanitation where it should be. So that is $5 for solid waste, but also $5 for recycling as well. We're also looking at a 3% increase with respect to sales tax. We're looking at very moderate growth on that. We've seen some flat to very small growth this year, but we are projecting a 3% increase for next year. And if we're looking at water and sewer, we're looking at a 5% rate increase, and that would be for our customers, but also as well for our municipal partners that we serve as well. Again, expenses. As I mentioned, the GO bond debt is new this year at $1.6 million. Again, retaining our employees. And again, if you look at our overall budget, 70% of what we spend and what we budget for are for our employees. So between benefits and salaries, we are looking at a 2% merit increase for all employees, but also retaining our DI for fire and police. One of the things we're looked at as well, and Julianne and Peggy has done a really good job with this, we've eliminated a lot of operational increases. We have really gone through the budget with a very fine-tooth comb and made sure that our expenditures lined up with exactly what they needed to be without any cushion. So we have cut back on our operations as well, but also we've had some capital increases as well. We have had for CAD RMS, that's our project that we've been working with communications jointly with the county and the other municipalities. So we have money for 40% of that this year. The rest of it will be in next year, but also we have $750,000 additional above and beyond the bond for paving, and $250,000 of that is for unpaved streets as well. Again, I'd like to show you this on an annual basis of where we're at and looking at overall projections. The reason why we like to show you where unemployment is, we're still in a very competitive market. So that's one of the reasons why our employees make up 70% of our budget, because we are in a very competitive market for employees. So again, unemployment at 3.7% and really remaining consistent. We are still competitive. You know, we don't want to get the same situation we got into with our police or with our fire in the past. Again, looking at CPI, Consumer Price Index, it's not as high as it has been. So it is being lowered. So we have to make adjustments to reflect the CPI as well. Again, looking at our capital projects, we had a total request of $23.4 million, but we are looking at financing $3.4 million, which is about average for what we do on an annual basis. And unfinanced out of this year's budget is $2.1 million. Again, we had $17.8 million worth of capital that is not funded. It's not to say that it's not needed and not warranted, but we did have to delay that this year. If council will remember as well, in the last 3 years, we have done Do It Now projects in June that we have tried to do some capital as far as an existing year budget. We're not doing any of that this year. So we don't have funds available for Do It Now. But if you see the projects we're financing, two side loaders, garbage truck, $790,000, PD vehicles at $733,000. The senior center HVAC, we have been told is at end of life. And the last thing I want to do is get Tony mad at me for it being hot over there. So the second one is our fire department breathing apparatus. We're also at end of life on that. So the process is to put half of it in this year's budget and then half of it in next year's budget. So those are things we really don't have a lot of choice of with respect to capital. Again, unfinanced, as I mentioned, we're looking at $750,000. The CAD RMS is 40% funded. I'm sorry, I meant 760 earlier, but 40% funded at $400,000. We do have an annex at the roof at our annex. We have had some mold issues that we have found, and it's in desperate need of being replaced. And also the airport funding, which we do on an annual basis, is $233,000. Any questions?
We just wanted to show that basically the financed and the unfinanced monies are largely consumed by 4 different items in each area. That's 80% of each area.
So not a lot of smaller projects that we're able to do in capital this year.
Going back a slide, talking about solid waste, are we transitioning that to an enterprise fund?
We need to, yes, sir.
By mandate?
It is statutorily that it should be an enterprise fund. We're not doing the entire increase this year, but we will be transitioning that in the next couple of years.
So while some of it is because our costs have gone up, the reality of it is it's mandated that be an enterprise fund.
It is.
And be self-sustaining.
And self-sustaining. And if you look at last year's budget, we subsidized from the general fund about $2.5 million. Again, that's a summary of our revenues. As I mentioned, we're looking at a 3% growth in our evaluations. Tax collection rate is at 98 cents. And again, we're keeping the tax rate at 48.36 cents. Again, sales tax, we're looking at a 3% increase to $22.3 million. And again, we're looking at an increase in our sanitation fees in recycling and solid waste. I think one thing is interesting to mention as well, and we've done some looking around. If council remembers, we don't charge for bulk pickup. Most municipalities around us charge for bulk pickup. We do not charge for bulk pickup, and Gary's group does a lot of bulk pickup. So we appreciate the work they do. Again, and this is our general fund summary for spending. Public safety payroll increased $830,000. That's between PD and fire. Vacant positions filled. In last year's budget, in the last couple of years, we had a policy, not really a policy, but a practice of not funding all positions. We had positions in our budget, but not all of them were funded. So now, the more that we have got more to a full staff, we don't have that luxury anymore. So we had to come up with an additional $740,000. Again, as I mentioned, merit for all other departments besides police and fire is $450,000. And we have had an increase in our health insurance overall of $430,000. Again, operations, as council is aware, last month we approved of a change to our transit operations, which was a $400,000 increase. One of the things we have added to this year's budget as well is $250,000 to look at housing. We don't know exactly what we want to do with that. It really, we may be looking at having it being very competitive, what we do, but we have money there if council wants to do something with housing in the upcoming budget year. The other thing that we have added, as council's aware, we have an ADA plan that was approved about a month ago. We have about 11 million, where's Tommy? I think it's about 11 million in ADA funds and improvements that we have to do. We wanted to put a start. So we're going to be able to do some of the improvements when we do the paving. Those streets that we have that need ADA improvements, that will be part of the paving contract. But there's also other things that we need to do besides roads and sidewalks. And then again, all other operations, as I mentioned, is $1 million less, as we basically went through and culled back some of the areas where we felt like we could cut. Again, as mentioned, capital outlay, pay-as-you-go, $2.1 million, financing $3.4, but unfunded we had $18.1 million that was not in this year's budget.
I would like to clarify on the vacant positions number. What we did is we budgeted 75% of the vacant positions. So if, for ease of rounding, if there was a position that was budgeted at 100,000, we only total costs, we only did 75. And so as we have filled up all these vacant positions, we have fewer vacant positions, which is a good testimony to all of our department heads and HR. There's less of that we can do. So that alone is adding $740,000 to our budget.
And there's kind of a breakdown of revenues and expenditures. You can see, sales tax and property tax are our two largest revenue sources. Then we have permits and fees, state shared revenue, fund balance usage that we will be this year. All other revenue at 5.7. But again, our spending, police at $27.6 million, which is 31%. Fire at 12.4, which is 14%. Public works also at 14%. Recreation at 10. Debt service at 6, and then all others at about 25%.
Is this our first full year for TDA funding?
Yes, sir. We budgeted last year for this year. It's about $800,000.
And we'll use the max for capital.
In debt service, yes, sir.
Which will 240,000?
Roughly 235.
Yes, sir.
Brad, can you go back just one?
Yeah.
It's maybe the most important graph in the whole thing. State share revenues. What do we hear from the general fund on that? Or general assembly?
We're not hearing any loss of revenue, but we're not hearing any growth either.
Fund balance for Burlington, $2.4 million.
Yes.
That number is fairly consistent with years past, is that correct?
It's probably a little higher this year, but it is in the range, yes, sir.
Okay. And then all other, 5.7, that's the number that I'm often asked about, was all other mean?
Everything from recreation fees to, it's a whole litany.
Whole slew. I'll get you what the litany
Yeah.
is. The animal services fees are in there. I would say the recreation fees are in there. Any miscellaneous revenue, sale of equipment that we have, investment income, it's all in there.
So, if at some point in time, and I know you've done it periodically through the year, but we're looking at some fee increases going into the fiscal year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The recycling and solid waste.
But all these other fees, were they looked at in terms of what those projected fees should be next year?
Yes, sir. The permits, building inspection fees, they were increased. Roughly in total about $120,000. And one thing I like about the slide is you see that property tax is 41.9 million, and police and fire together are 40 million. So there's not a left after paying, covering police and fire.
So police and fire, then is what, 90% of the general fund, the sales tax and property tax?
Just the property tax. The property tax is 41.9, so you have 1.9 million left after police and fire are taken.
Yeah.
I got it.
That's right.
Must not want us to see that.
Then that's how it's broken down
Quickly get rid of that one.
by department.
Wait, going back to our debt a little bit, refresh my memory, in 2026, we have some debt service coming off.
Yes, sir. 500,000.
Okay.
And when would be, in terms of looking forward after that, because I know we're going to be adding some more debt.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
We'll just have to see what, how quickly we can get the 11 million for the Paramount recreation bonds sold and what the rate will be at that time. Is what they pay, so what the offset. We'll be looking at 26, 27 years.
but are we close on existing debt in terms of getting off some of the existing debt? In terms of,
That's just that one.
Just a half million.
Just that happening.
And then again, that's our spending by departments. And just to let you know, we're really adding 1.5 positions on in this year's budget. We had a lot more requests, but one is our parking collection specialist, and that includes software for that position. There's a concern that we've heard from council about making sure that if we're doing parking tickets or if we're doing fees, we expect code enforcement, that we have somebody there collecting. And we just didn't have the capacity internally, so that's what that position is for. And also working with the PD, they have 2 part-time positions that they want to create 1 full-time position, and that's a crash investigator. But again, you see the positions on the left are positions we were not funding this year.
so the 43,000 is a net increase
Yes, sir.
of the 2 part-time jobs and 1 full-time.
Yes, sir.
Yes, increase of hours and benefits.
Again, water resources at 37.4 million. You can see our sales, our water sales to Greensboro, our sewer and rents, water, and all other revenues equals 37.4 million. And again, we're looking at a 5% increase for water and sewer. Again, this is what it would look like on average for somebody's bill. Again, current is about, for both is $48.59 with recycling and garbage, but when we add the new rates, the 5% increase, and also the 5% for solid waste and recycling, it will go up $59.93 per month.
Craig, one other thing on water and sewer. Can you go over where we are now in terms of outside sales to other jurisdictions, a percentage of that, in terms of what the Greensboro revenue would be, our going to Clefsonville, if I'm not mistaken, going east?
We do have water sales to Greensboro,
Yeah.
and that's 2.4 million out of the city's budget. The other municipalities,
Is within the 38%, the 14 years. We can get that working out.
yeah. We'll get that to you.
Yeah. And That's a good way to look at how we compare. Bill comparison for water and sewer at 5,000 gallons. The median is 95.14, and we'll be at 55.81. Again, this is their spending by department, and that is all listed out, between all of our plants and also administration. Again, this is our stormwater fee. Operations, we're still looking at $7 a month. We are looking at, possible changes later on. But right now, we're still keeping it at $7 per month. And again, those are some of the projects that we would like to do with that revenue. And again, public transportation, between federal funds, fares, state assistance, general fund, we have about $600,000 within the general fund that we will be spending for link transit in our transportation fund. And again, vehicle tax that you see at the bottom, we did a $5 increase per car last year, and we're at the max there. Again, these are other funds that the city has between capital reserve, the MSD, which is our downtown district. We're not looking at any change to the MSD rate. CDBG program income. We talked about our entitlement grant last night. So also our MPO funding that we get from the state for our transportation. And again, just a major snapshot, looking at general fund and all our other funds. They all total out to $137.67 million. And what we would be looking for with council approval is setting the public hearing. We would advertise, I think, Saturday. And that would give us our 10 days that we would be able to hold our public hearing on June 3rd for our 25-26 fiscal year.
Any questions? I'm sure everybody has a chance to read through things that probably Peggy, your phone will be ringing.
That will be fine, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank y'all for working hard on really holding in line, and it's always a moving ball a little bit, and the CAFR is a wonderful tool, but it's 6 months in arrears as to how we ended. So I know we all use that. I certainly use it to kind of give you some comfort as to what the monies are doing, but the truth is things change every day, and they certainly change on a month-to-month or quarter-to-quarter basis. So I appreciate all the effort.
Well, and I appreciate council as well. We appreciate the moving back of this meeting with all the bond discussion that we've had and what we would and would not be doing. That would have adjusted our tax rate. So we wanted to make sure when we made the presentation that it was as up-to-date and accurate as it could be.
And we've had some monies that we thought we were going to get from grants or government sources not materialized. CAT RMS?
CAT RMS was huge.
How much was that?
Almost $1 million.
It's a little over $1 million that we
That we had and that we didn't have.
That's right.
That was pulled back this year.
So, that whole gambit has changed quite a bit too. So,
But like I said, that's not a choice we have. That's something we have to do.
correct. So, okay.
All right. Thank you.
Next, item B are transportation updates. We've got the NCDOT STIP and SPOT project update on Burlington projects. And we've got Link Transit service expansion and interlocal agreements with All River and Green Lake. This time we'll turn it over to Mike Miller.
Good evening. Started working on this, I guess, about a month ago, talking with Craig. I want to make, at the beginning, what we just found out yesterday, unfortunately, that some of the information I'll show you is likely going to change, and then repeat that at the end, because it's going to probably be a big change, and Mr. Ward and Mr. Butler and some of that yesterday evening. We had a report from the state, unfortunately, that over about $70 million in the first 5 years of the plan has been over budgeted. Our projects are in the first 5 years, so we're going to be anxiously waiting to see the impacts, because prior to that, from a transportation standpoint and the work we've done to date, these are our projects that are funded right now. And I'll put them in order so you can see as improvements go beyond the sidewalks. We start with 62 here in 27. As we progress through, I'll put them in your order of the packet possibly. Between now and 2030 and 31, we had a project going every year, just about, a major project or a major intersection improvement. And these are spread, the red dots are those that are funded. I just tried to find the best way to sort of show you how they're dispersed around the city. We started here with the University in Westbrook, which is good news. We heard that will likely be completed in July. So that one will be untouched.
While we're on that subject, Mike and I met with NCDOT. I know there's been a lot of consternation about the length of time of that particular project. And, we just wanted to be sure as we moved to Huffman Mill Road, Shadowbrook, and South Church there at Harris Teeter, that we weren't going to get into the same thing, because that project at University was taken forever. It actually was an extension of procurement issues because of COVID. And that's what really substantially delayed that project, which we don't expect to see that moving forward. So that was good news.
Yes, it was very good news. And the good news is it will be untouched. Speaking of that next project at Church and Huffman, which will be an intersection improvement project, that will be a major, everyone will probably see and feel that daily. You may not travel out here daily, but most folks will feel and see Church and Huffman, which is here at the Harris Teeter Shopping Center, malls in this area. That'll be an intersection improvement. All 4 legs will be impacted. We will get some capacity, adding turn lanes. That's the objective of that, and also adding sidewalks. That is supposed to be let May 28th, so I'm hoping that will not be impacted.
And right away is already.
Yes, they've been moving forward. They're getting ready to go to construction, we hope. And just moving around Church Street from Charleston to 5th, basically is just going to be a widening to put a center turn lane in. That's going to be sort of a creative project. It's tight in that corridor. It goes by the Arboretum as well. It goes by the high school, Walter Williams. We're doing some preliminary designs right now on that project. We're all aware of NC 62, the Alamance Road widening, which is from the Ramada Road all the way up to Church Street. Just to point out, it ends at Church Street. There will not be any improvements on Church Street with this project. Basically on NC 62, and that will be widening and adding a turn lane in that area. Just south of there, a project that is funded right now will be adding a traffic signal to Bonnie Hatchery Lane on 62. That project's been talked about a lot. You may wonder about why that one. Well, they're also going to look at the impact of Eric Lane, the congestion here and the separation between the ramps.
It's not unusual if you're getting off the interstate to have to wait 3 lanes to get through there. So that's definitely a bottleneck. Another reason that we need them to fund Huffman Street interchange.
So that means that's just adding a signal. Same thing at NC 54 in Maple, adding left turn lanes in this direction, so you'll have dual lefts. Just an intersection improvement project. Hopefully that one will go untouched. Maybe some of your smaller amounts will go untouched in this new budget update. Again, that will be one that everybody will see and feel daily, most likely. That is that. Graham Hopedale widening, it's a major project. It goes all the way up north to Morningside, which crosses 70. That one likely is going to be impacted by the budget, but that will be a major widening and bike and pedestrian improvement project when it's built. Hopefully we get some more information on this schedule soon. And then the other two that we looked at are just pedestrian projects. You know, along Church Street and 70, most east and west, we don't have a lot of sidewalks. So we've been trying to put sidewalk projects in to state funding to do along Church Street. And this one is from Beaumont all the way up to Graham Hopedale Road, and then from Graham Hopedale down to Sellers Mill. This is Western Electric right here. We're off with that side. That's just an overview of what's funded or what we know is funded. You may be familiar with the state process. Every 2 years we submit or have been submitting projects for evaluation. No longer, many years ago, we used to do what we call a priority list, where we just picked the projects we wanted, that we thought needed to be done. Now it's a very data-driven matrix, if you will, that all projects go through. Some may rise to the top that we may not think rise to the top. But the policy for the state and for the NPO is to put points, if you will, to those projects that score the highest. Therefore, those projects move through the budgeting process quicker. And we filter out those projects that aren't as of great impact. So each year we'll submit those projects. The challenge with that is our NPO, we only get 13 projects submitted for all of our members, and I think we're up to 12 or 14 members now. So it's a very limited process with budget. We will submit projects. I gave those are your green list. Those are highway projects and bike and ped projects on the back. Both sidewalks, bike, and greenways. And they all come from our plans that we've adopted. And I can answer any questions you have, or if you have any other projects you want to talk about specifically. But those in red here and those listed on the sheet are the ones that we know right now that are funded. The others will just be in the evaluation phase. And we'll come back when we get those projects started to give you some information about how this will work. Any questions? I will hopefully get some information on that funding hopefully in the next few weeks so we can know the impacts and schedules.
Well, most all of those projects have been delayed or moved back. So it's kind of, it's just something we kind of get accustomed to, but some of those now are becoming high priorities because of the delays. So it would be nice if we could at least get the projects that are supposedly funded. That'd be great.
And that's also a bit of staying consistent with what we're asking for too, and what's going well. Because of the funding delays, you don't want to lose focus on these projects. Specifically, it was $75 million in the first 5 years and $105 million for the next 10 years. So things came back more expensive. We've experienced that a little bit. Very expensive for NCDOT, and now they're having to adjust their budget as well for what they can provide.
Well, inflation gets us to, let's be honest.
Yes, exactly. It's shocking for them. I mean, their numbers, big increases.
Yeah.
So we'll keep working, pushing away, update you when these things change. But as we were on the schedule, we have a pretty good program going, and I think we can maintain that. But it just may not be as quick as what first presented.
Yep, and from a prioritization standpoint, it's still heavy statewide mobility in the regional and the division. Is that right? That's correct.
And very focused, as I said, on data driven, on either their maintenance, square sheet. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? I'll update you when I get some information.
Bob's the chairman of the NPO, so if anybody's got any questions, just ask Bob.
I believe you all got that good question last night, didn't you?
I certainly appreciate that effort, but you're the man.
I'm chasing and trying to keep up with it. And we had no prior warning, so that was a pretty big blow yesterday just to be reported in a meeting. But that's how we work, it seems.
That's the way it works.
That's That's how it works.
Okay. All right, thank you.
The next item is an item that you've heard before, is we've had a request from Hall River specifically to expand link service into Hall River. The town of Green Level is also considering it. John's working with them doing a survey. They're not quite as far along, but Hall River is ready to go with their funding. There's a draft interlocal agreement, just like we've done with Nevin, Elon, and Gibsonville in the packet. They're going to pay for the local match and the cost of it. We'd like to ask you to put that on your agenda for consideration, and then when we get Green Level, if we get it, to do the same thing.
This is just expense neutral to us.
Yes. There's no Burlington cost.
Is everybody okay with that?
And Green Levels does not have a manager now, so that situation is something else.
Been working with the interim town manager right now.
Yeah.
And it's due on our agenda later on.
Okay. But we do in Hall River, it's the food line, and if in Green Level, it's going up to the Dollar General, I believe. It's the Dollar General scratch, yeah.
Okay.
It's about 15 extra minutes from what we're doing now.
Well, we factored that into our study. So we
Yes.
kind of we're already prepared if they move forward. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Can you put it on your agenda tomorrow?
Yep.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that's
That's all I have, Mr. Rico.
all right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next is item C, City Code Ordinance Proposed Amendments, predominantly for usually the noise ordinance. This time, we'll see Sherry Jones.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor.
How'd you get handed this one?
Luck of the draw.
Wait a minute, she's got a 10-minute presentation. I can do it in 4 to 5.
Now we understand why you're.
We have been working over the past several months to try to consolidate all of the noise ordinances into one place. As it sits right now with our city code, these noise ordinances are spread throughout various chapters. So we've amended to remove the noise violations from the various chapters and place them all into one article that we are proposing to entitle the noise nuisances. And it will be found as new Article 5 in Chapter 22. Our enabling legislation comes from 168-184 that gives cities the power to regulate noise within their cities. And 168-4 states that these grants of power shall be broadly construed. Chapter 22 is the nuisance chapter of our city code. 22-60 is the animal nuisance section of that chapter. We're proposing to strike the regulation of animal noises found in this section and move it to the new section 22-71. Chapter 23 is the offenses chapter of our city code. Section 23-18 is the section that regulates some noise violations. We're proposing to repeal this section in its entirety and move it to new section 22-70. Chapter 34 is our streets and sidewalks chapter of the city code. 34-180 is the section that regulates outdoor dining and sidewalk cafes. We're proposing to add a sentence to this section that will cross-reference noise on sidewalks with the new ordinance 22-72. Chapter 36 is the traffic chapter of the city code. Section 36-17 is the section of the city code that regulates unnecessary noise relating to motor vehicles. We're proposing to repeal this section in its entirety and move it to new section 22-69. Section 36-18 is also in the traffic section, and it regulates sound reproduction devices. We're proposing to repeal this section in its entirety and move it to new section 22-69C. And then Chapter 22, Article 5, Sections 22-66 through 22-72 are the new proposed noise ordinances. Many individual regulations have been kept the same. For example, our current city code restricts the use of outdoor lawn equipment, construction machinery, garage machinery to 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., and we're proposing to leave those time frames the same in the new ordinance. We have added criminal penalties to some of these violations. pursuant to state statute. The board cannot adopt ordinances with criminal penalties at the first reading. Tonight does not count as the first reading. So we're asking that a public hearing be set for June 3rd, 2025, which will be the first reading. A hard copy of these revisions will be on file with the city clerk. They'll be posted on our website. I have some hard copies with me today if anyone would like any, and they'll also appear in the agenda packet for the June 3rd council meeting. After the June 3rd public hearing, we are requesting this be placed on the June 17th council agenda for the final vote. Publication will run in the Alamance News on May 22nd and May 29th. I think these revisions are going to be helpful going forward for staff as well as our residents to have everything in one place so they're easy to find and easy to code through. I'm happy to answer any questions. Maybe I didn't go over my 10 minutes.
So, noise ordinance in particular has been a very big hot topic. It's one thing that will come up every single radio show, mayor's radio show. This gets it all in one place. This puts a bow on it from a legal standpoint and ordinances. How is this going to benefit the public, Chief?
The main issue that we find with noise, of course, is it's a quality of life issue. Somebody's trying to sleep during the night and they have a loud party down the street, they can't sleep, that's a quality of life issue. But not only at home, that may be calling 911, but the whole neighborhood. This makes it a lot simpler for the person whose home it is that's being bothered by that noise to know when they should and shouldn't call first. And we want them to know when they can call, right, when there are clear violations. It's also going to help on the enforcement side where it makes it a lot more clear for the officers, or if it were animal control issues, as they go out to deal with those things, that they'll know exactly how to respond. There's another important component here too where some of the fines are increased. There's additional accountability as it relates to folks that want to violate the noise ordinance past, being warned to turn it down and don't do it. Or things that are just, very excessive, right? Where, a civil fine really is the first thing that should happen. That increase is about accountability. It's about a consequence to a bad decision that causes problems for people in their homes and in their lives. And so I think comprehensively we feel like this will put the residents in a lot better position so that they're not disturbed by noises that are causing them problems, and it'll be more effective for everybody.
So if someone's having a block party, they're playing music too loud, and someone complains at 10 o'clock and PD comes out and they turn it down, and then PD leaves and they turn it back up, this puts teeth, this gives something that allows us to lever that into compliance, which is what we want.
And that's, I think, to extend a little bit on that, part of the budget presentation was somebody in finance to work on collections, and so that there will be additional responsibilities that will follow people who decide not to follow the ordinances, and so that there will be collection processes if those become necessary for folks who decide not to pay the fines.
I just want to say, one of the reasons we felt like getting it in one place is our officers had to look at 10 different places basically to see what was in violation, what was not in violation. And again, we had some conflicts as well. Alan has also talked about they've done a really good job training the officers and using really a common man or common woman sense. And making it much more simpler for enforcement as well. But as Chief said, that we will have that as part of the responsibility of the traffic position as well, is going to be collecting the fines and fees, especially with nuisance abatement stuff as well.
What would be an example of a fine? What would it look like? $250? I'm just curious.
$150.
$150 for the first, then $250, then $500, and for the fourth violation within 1 year, that's when you get into criminal penalties.
So the criminal, it's important, I think, to know that you don't jump straight into criminal. That's something that someone who's just abusing this system, and whoever is charged with criminal. But it also offers these fines that you have a due process there that they can appeal to the manager in the situation. I was referring to what we call the reasonable man standard. So you don't have to go out and measure everything with decibel because so much of this stuff is not there when law enforcement shows up or animal services or whatever. So, you know, when you do hear it, you just use a reasonable man standard and you ride in the court on that, which is it's plenty adequate. And that's what Alan is training in his area for.
So really, outdoor, this season, outdoor house parties. Issue.
That is, and that's a specific example that we heard last year from a resident where they wanted additional consequences for folks who decided to do those things and disturb the entire neighborhood for hours and hours. So I think this is directly in response to the community's interest and needs and should really help.
That's always been the key.
I mean, at the end of the day, the fine's not important to us, it's compliance.
And hopefully, that's a very key point of the clarity of the ordinance to give everybody an understanding of when they might violate it so that they can just comply.
Very, very comprehensive. Good job. Really is. I think it'll be, once you get the rolling of this, and I've lived some of this over the years, it's good to see it all consolidated in one place. I think it's going to be helpful, for the citizens and our folks inside the enforcement. But I think this is a really good job. I really do. And I really appreciate all the people work on it. It's really good.
There's been a lot of people from Jess and her department, Alan, Sherry, David, myself, Rachel. We've been, it's taken a while to get us to this point, but we didn't want to submit something that we would have to go back and then amend, a month down the road. So there's really been a lot of thought, a lot of different ordinances that have been looked at. So we're not stepping out on that, from our real limb as well.
Yeah, I think you've done an excellent job. Really, you did. I mean, I looked at it and read it. Again, like I said, thank you all. Right.
I would have to say that having had dealt with Chris Morrow and his Baylor and Jess, she inquired about combat today.
Well, if you had been given the presentation, I might have inquired about the same. Thank you. On that note, we'll move to item D, boards and commissions report. We have 2. Planning and zoning has 3 items, and this time we'll call on Jamie Watson. Good evening, Jamie.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just pull up the PowerPoint here and I will get started. So the Planning and Zoning Commission had 3 items on their agenda for the April 28th meeting. The first one was a rezoning request. Property fronts on Railroad Street. It's highlighted here in teal. It is under an acre in size. The property, you can tell based upon this map, is split zone. A portion of the property is in HDR and a portion of the property is in high density residential and heavy industrial. The request came in for the property to be converted fully to high density residential. Currently the property is vacant, but I believe the intention is to build additional homes on this land here. Planning and Zoning Commission heard the case and recommended it unanimously. Staff also recommended it consistent with our comprehensive plan. For anyone who has been out in that area, the portion of the property that is zoned industrial really would not be, it's irregular and really not be suited well for any kind of industrial use in that area, and better serves, in my opinion, the expansion of the residential there. It's probably a legacy of old zoning anyway. So converting that land would allow for additional info. So staff recommends this one, as I mentioned, and we're asking for it to be placed on the June 3rd agenda for public hearing. Okay? Any questions on this one? Second rezoning request is over in Guilford County. The property is currently in Guilford's jurisdiction. There was a request to rezone the property. It is about 40 acres in size. It's just north of other recent rezoning from Guilford County to Burlington. And the request is to change the zoning from ag to medium industrial, which would fall under our Unified Development Ordinance. This would also require annexation. This area is subject to the Water Protection Overlay District standards, so there would be limitations and oversight on impervious coverage and permitted uses. It is currently vacant, as of the other one. The Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended this one unanimously. Staff is also recommending it as well. This item we are asking for it to be placed on the June 17th City Council agenda. This would tie in with a potential annexation request at the same evening, similar to what we have done in the past. Any questions on this one? Okay. And then lastly, this is a property that is on the easternmost part of McIntosh on the Lake. If you recall, I think it's back in 2004, that there was a specific zoning, conditional rezoning for the entire McIntosh on the Lake development, which then got translated when the Unified Development Ordinance came into place in 2019 to the mixed-use conditional development here, the Annex 746. This is a vacant piece of property. It's fairly constrained. It has steep slopes that drop down. It's very wooded. In the McIntosh on the Lake manifesto, which is really the master plan for that entire area, it was identified as Parcel L. Parcel L had a max density of 5 units per acre. So that's what would be allowed if this site was developed under the current zoning. There was a request to change the zoning of this property to medium density residential, essentially because this is generally landlocked. Future development of the site would come and be connected ultimately to development off of Gleason Lane. That would, when that would occur, that would reduce the density slightly from 5 units per acre to 4.85 units per acre. So not that much of a change, but definitely not an increase. There were several more people than I thought were going to show up, but they were all in favor of the rezoning request. There were no residents from McIntosh on the Lake present who spoke against this request. So with that said, Planning and Zoning Commission did also recommend this request. This slide just summarizes where the site is, the floodplain that goes through this area, showing really that the connection through McIntosh really wouldn't be feasible, and the connection to the east is less problematic. This is the approved TRC plan. If you recall, this also came in front of you, not the TRC, but the annexation of this property, the Gleason Lane property that fronts onto Huffman Mill. So, like I said, the rezoning would allow for additional development, but just at a lower density. This was the original, this is the manifesto that I referred to before, and that's kind of the master plan that was put into place when Macintosh rezoning was approved. This is that parcel L that is the subject of this request, and this outlines the density that was allowed for that property, 5 units per acre. Staff is recommending this rezoning request, allowing for additional infill, lower density, compatible and consistent with the zoning in that area. This also brings future development of the site into compliance with the Unified Development Ordinance, as opposed to the old conditional rezoning. So we are also recommending this rezoning and asking for it to be placed on the June 3rd City Council agenda.
Based on the conditions when it was rezoned under conditional rezoning and the UDO, is the UDO still more restrictive than what the conditions were on it at the time? Do we know? May not have looked.
Which conditions would you say? The manifesto for Macintosh was a fairly comprehensive document. But with that also said, it broke down the development in that area into so many different parcels.
Gotcha.
There were different regulations associated with different things. You could swap different areas. It was a very unique and extremely comprehensive document. So in some cases, that may be more restrictive, depends on how you look at it. But from a staff perspective, it is easier for us as we move properties from conditional rezoning into the Unified Development Standards. It makes things more consistent across the board. It brings development into compliance with the standards that we have in place now. And so I wouldn't expect there to be much change in terms of the density here, but depending upon the type of development that would occur, you're going to have open space requirements, you may have design standards, you're going to have enhanced landscaping, other things that we've talked
So
about.
that's kind of where I was going with it.
Jamie, Guilford County has been really good to work with, have they not?
Pardon me?
Guilford County, the county government has been really good to work with as we move further and further into Guilford County. Do you think?
Can't say
Jamie,
any
you can move
comment
on to
on
the next
that.
How about that now?
I can't say anything negative. How about that?
Good enough.
Right. I can say we are, we have had, very good cooperative conversations with our jurisdictions to the west. Any other questions that you have on this?
Their zoning ordinance is much more comprehensive than Albine's county.
Well, that would be,
I would say, I would also add though that the area that we've been rezoning or had requests to rezone are in areas that have been highlighted for economic development by the county. So we're being consistent with that request.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
So that's all from P&Z, right?
That is.
So next we've got one item from the Traffic Commission. So Mike, you want to say this? Real quick.
is a request that actually came from the residents on Peel Street, there's Kipp Street, Cross Street, and Plaid, the east side of Peel Street. It was sent to, of course, all adjacent property owners, so we didn't get any feedback from the others, but it was not requested to go on both sides. So we just complied with the request, which was the east side. Which you see here, 2 signs will come out. This will remain the same on the west side. There's only one drive. It's actually a small house daycare. So it's just going to stay as is and shouldn't disrupt anything that they're used to. But the east side will allow parking for, they've had a new home developed here. And there's one existing, so they'll have some on-street parking now that they've not had. Just an assumption, we're guessing when the plant was active, the no parking was in place to stop the spillover parking into the neighborhood. Because as you go up Peel Street, there's no parking limitations further up. So really unanimous vote and no comments from the public.
Was this brought to us from a resident?
It was on the corner, the actual new person.
I got you.
Yeah. They just asked what the no parking was for, and we looked into it, and there's really no need. It's a neighborhood street.
Yeah, seems pretty simple.
So we asked for that on your June 3rd consent agenda.
Everybody good with that?
Thank you.
Okay. And the last item E is signature report.
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor and Council. And I do want to thank Council for the work we did last night with respect to our bond projects. And appreciate the support and the direction that you have given. Just to let you know, we have called and contacted Michael Graves, architect on the pool. I think there is a meeting tomorrow with him to talk about rescoping and how we can make it sure that it comes in within our budget. But also we have a meeting with Chrisman and associate, or our contractor for the Paramount next week to start looking at a kickoff. So that is moving forward. And again, I thank Council for your direction on that. Do want to remind you as well, we have our Public Works luncheon Friday at the Public Works facility on 7th Street. Chicken, and then I think there's chicken. And chicken. So, but no, it's a wonderful time. I think Council has T-shirts to recognize the week as well. It should be in your boxes, but thanks to Gary and Bob and everybody in Public Works and everything they do for us. The other thing I did want to mention is one of the things we talked about last night. The mayor mentioned it during his council comments. Was about the public informational meeting next Tuesday at the Dream Center, beginning at 5 with NCDOT with respect to our rail slots. And one of the things council asked last night was for us to promote it as much as possible. So we've got it to the BDC today. All lists that we have with respect to commercial. We had some professors from Elon that I've contacted today. The chamber's been contacted today. It's on our social media. So we are really working hard to make sure that we get that information out because that is really important for our community. And that's all I have.
Craig, what was the other towns affected by that change?
Kannapolis, the whole bridge.
High Point, yeah. Yeah.
Had anybody else pursued this in the other cities?
Those were taken off of the route, and I guess there's continual discussion with DOT about adding back.
They don't have meetings and
Yes, sir.
send them to there.
Yes, sir. As I think DOT said in an email, it was a failed, I forgot how exactly it was, but it was a failed try.
To their credit, they
They have been very much so. Very much so. But we're excited about this.
So we've got the Paramount set, we got the back on path. What's the next step with the sportsplex?
We've got to start having discussions about location. We got about next steps on, hiring probably a designer or the design build or whatever we decided to do, and the location of that. So that's next on our agenda.
When can we expect to start working on that?
We've been working some off and on, but now with the Paramount and the MAC moving forward, and we have clear direction, we can start with a clear direction on the sportsplex.
Okay.
And that, those kind of facilities were fairly commonplace now in the design field,
That's right.
which would help you some of the budget.
And that may be something we'll ask you to do. If that's something you want to do as design build, we'll get council to approve that, and we'll look at RFQs about what we're looking for as far as a designer and a partner with them.
Let me say this weekend, Springwood hosted a 2-day large soccer tournament. It brought people in from Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Being there with a child or grandchild, the one thing we noticed was that the parking, the soccer field, so it can't hold all the cars. But it's just a good little walk in the park to get up there. But it was interesting just sitting there listening to the parents' howls. The great things they had to say about that facility.
Cool.
You know, the location in terms of getting off on the interstate and getting there, people coming in both east and west is great. You know, exit in, 10 minutes, you're in the park. And baseball complex was being used, and there was no conflict whatsoever. And I think that's going to be requested an awful lot going forward for additional type facilities. And that being said, also the addition of the artificial turf soccer field will make a huge difference in being the drawing point to be able to have an event like that. I don't know how we figure out the economic impact of it. I don't know that answer, but I think it obviously has to be pretty substantial.
Okay. Anything else? If there's nothing else, we will stand adjourned. Be sure someone texts Ron and let him know what time.
What we do after the
Close session,